One of the things that's happened to us is we've lost faith in God's ability to heal our lives. What's happened is there's been an encroachment of the secular world. With the huge buildings, the spire of the church is no longer the tallest building in the village. With multi-story office buildings, hospitals, and condominiums, it overpowers what used to be, what appeared to be the center of the town, and that is the monument to God. And with that, there's been the encroachment where we are starting to believe that the clothing, the styles, the wonderful technology of medicine in the modern day are all artifacts of man, things we have created. And we forget the fact that the principles that are discovered that underlie ultrasounds, CAT scans, MRIs, modern surgery, all of those things are based on how God designed the human body and principles that He built into nature. And so we give honor to human beings who discover the principles of God and invent those things, but we forget where they really come from. And the consequence is we increasingly lose faith in the power of God. And of course, this current pandemic is the greatest example. It's interesting that over the 2 millennia, there have been lepers in church, highly contagious. Because Jesus did not send them away the way the Pharisees and Sadducees did. There has been the Black Plague, there's been the bubonic plague, there's been all kinds of other stuff. And never once has the church closed its doors. Never once has it said only 5 can be present or 10 can be present. Because the belief was that God was more powerful than disease. And so when you walked through the door of the great holy church, you walked in an antiseptic environment, not because of medical means, not because of Clorox or alcohol or mask or 6 feet distant, but because of the power of the living God that is present always on the altar where His body and blood stand in the tabernacle. And what's happened for the first time in the history of all those assaults of man, the church has given in to secular fears and closed its doors and limited services. And what happened is we've all gone along with it. Now, obviously those of us who are here today didn't go along with it. But I have a great sadness in my soul about the fact that bishops and metropolitans and even patriarchs have issued orders telling people not to have Lazarus Saturday liturgy, not to do Holy Unction, only to do some services with a priest and deacon and chanter present. And we have actually lost our faith in the power of the living God. And I fear that it will come down on the church because we have failed God. This happened once when the Council of Florence took place. The Roman Emperor of Constantinople was being assaulted by Ottoman Muslim Turks and by Bulgarian pagans. And so he wanted the Pope to send him troops. So he ordered the Patriarch of Constantinople and a number of the metropolitan bishops to go to a council in Florence, Italy, and to give in to all the Pope's demands. Add the Filioque Clause to the Creed, to acknowledge the Pope as in charge of the church and not the whole church gathered. And what happened is only one man in the delegation, about 35, Mark, the Metropolitan of Ephesus, stood up and said, "No way. We will not give up the truth of Christ in the Holy Church." Now, he went back, and the order went out from Constantinople and from other patriarchs, obey this command. And the people in the church, the readers, the lay people, the choir, the chanters, refused to recite the Filioque Clause. And they refused to acknowledge the Pope as the head of the whole church. And the result is the church itself stood up in obedience to God and defeated the failure of the leadership. And that's happened several times in our history. But today, it seems like everybody's given in. And I have great sadness in my heart for that, because I think that will come down upon us, that the natural consequences of our lack of faith in the living God And I ask you to pray for the church and for its leaders, that they come to their senses and that we really trust the power of the living God. In the name of the Father, and Son, and Holy Spirit. Because that living God wishes to heal us. In the midst of this pandemic, wishes to heal us, not simply our bodies, but our hearts and souls as well, and to make us whole again. And that's why the readings in the gospel in this service, only a few about physical healing. Most of them are about life transformation. And that is the healing that God intends for all of us. In the name of the Father, and Son, and Holy Spirit, now and ever. Let's come forward for the prayer.